at the end of the day, OU is going to be fine in my opinion. I think that we got to get healthy. We have to get healthy. Offensively, does Nick Anderson make you that much better? I think he does. But at the end of the day, I think that what needs to happen is that Latrell and that quarterback room, they need to have a heart to heart and figure some things out pretty quickly, because offensive line play was not up to necessarily the standard, but it was good enough last night for you to put up numbers if you wanted to, because a lot of plays were there. There were a bunch of deep balls, a lot of accuracy, a lot of issues with accuracy, different things like that. But we have stuff to fix. We have stuff to get fixed fast.
He missed a bunch of easy check downs
as well. Check downs as well. I was talking to Jay from Unfair Sports today. Me and him were texting back and forth, and you know, I'll just basically just quote what he said. He said, "Hey man," he said, Burks, Roberts, Sharp, all of them, they're sitting there with they're doing little sticks and curls basically, and they're open, and nobody's within 6-7 yards of them, and they can go and move. Whenever he was dumping the ball down and doing it and finding his check downs, we were perfectly fine. However, the fact of the matter is, people, is that we're 2 games into the season. This is not, we are far from a complete team. I don't think we're a bad team. We're just we are a team that is trying to figure out how to play complementary football. I think our defense is going to keep us in the game a whole bunch, but offensively things have to click. I keep going back and forth on Latrell, because I feel like, wait a minute, 1 second. We got Mike the Legend, we got Sooners Legend in here with us today. But
how's it going, gentlemen?
What's up? What's up? But for me, I go back and forth on Latrell play calling, because I feel like the play calling is actually pretty damn good. It's just piss poor execution. So I mean, I kind of go back and forth, people, as far as what is really going on out there, because like I said, the offensive line still wasn't great last night. I'm not even talking about the injuries or people that need to be back or whatever the case may be, but it was good enough. There was good enough play last night from the offensive line for you to go out there and put up a lot of numbers, at least through the air. You just had piss poor execution. That's something that has to fix itself. Jackson Arnold is still young. We can't use that excuse for forever. We got a really good opponent that's coming in next week. I am not scared of them at all, because as good as they looked in that game, they played against. I mean, I don't think that's one of the better climbing teams that I've seen in a while. I don't know.
And climbing always rolls out an egg early season. I mean,
yeah,
K-State always loses. You know, I mean, the K-State team will lose to North Dakota State and then come to Norman and beat OU. That's a K-State climbing kind of tradition. So I'm with you. Tulane, but Tulane can put up some points. That's the best quarterback and offensive scheme we're going to see to date, right? So the defense, I think the defense will play well. Mensa is mistake prone, so we could get some turnovers from him definitely and get some momentum early if we could put some points up. So I don't think Tulane is like some juggernaut, but they're the most competent offense with the best skill folks that we've seen to date. That's scary just because our offense is not clicking consistently, putting drives together. From that standpoint, I agree with you though. There was just a lot left on the field last night. Just some things were very, very close to putting this into a respectable kind of game in terms of something like it could have easily, if you could have just clicked a little bit, that first drive of the second half was going places until Jackson threw that just bizarre pick.
Yeah,
really. I mean, he could have checked down to there was 2 other guys wide open on the left. Could have ran with just anything. Just throw the ball away, live for another down. It was just. You had various momentum moments where you could have re-grabbed some momentum, and I think our defense would have forced forced Houston to press. Houston got to be really conservative, right? Because they just didn't want to make a mistake. They just ran the ball, ran clock, and, kept their defense, rested. And they just, in the second half, they were just basically, after they got the big play, they were like, well, let's just play slow enough and maybe OU will make a mistake and we can force something. So it was bizarre from that aspect. But yeah, you've got to again, the wide receiver thing, I think, is the biggest thing throwing off Arnold.
Yeah.
You've got Thompson, Reagans, and Burks out there. It's a ridiculous three wide receiver group. I didn't. They did move. I think they put Kearney in a little bit. I didn't see Kearney on that much. Bagman might be right. This could be a game 2 thing with Venables.
I don't know why.
I don't know. Well, I mean, it's the opposite of the Switzerism. You're better, game 1 and game 2 is when you make your biggest improvements. But Penn State was terrible. Last year, SMU was nip tuck, really. And that was a good SMU team.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year, he just pushed the limit even further with this 16, 12, trying to remember the score. I'm trying to blank so much of it's out of my memory. 16-12, score that is just, you just look at it and you're just like, what, you got to burn the Wilkinson jerseys.
Yeah.
It's so hard with them rotating guys in and out with no names on the back too. It's like, who the hell's in the game? Is that Burks? Burks, is that Burks? Is that Robert? Is that is that Thompson? Is that Reagans? They all are short and they're fast. They can't tell. So that's just one thing. But yeah, so it's, again, if you can get, Anderson, Anthony back back playing at their peak, that makes Jackson Arnold look like a much better quarterback. What we thought. I do think until you can get that back, some more 2 tight ends might be something to talk about. But you rapidly, if you should start Howland at left tackle next week.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
You should start Howland, and you should really think about seeing if you can get Sexton to play right tackle, because we don't know what Jake Taylor's injury is, and
I think that you see Taylor. I think you see Nick Anderson next week. I really do.
But Taylor tried to go and he didn't. Was pretty ineffective, right?
Yeah.
So there's a week. And Brent's not doing us any favors with this O-line mystery injury crap.
Yeah.
Just tell us how these guys are hurt, so we have a better read on why you're holding them out and all this. My final comment, Chris, is I think the whole Houston looking like ass last week didn't help. Everybody was saying, "Oh, you're going to blow this team out. You're going to blow these guys out. They're terrible. They're the fix for all of our problems." And then Willie Fritz basically took the UNLV game plan, the UNLV film, trashed it, redid his entire offensive scheme, and they looked nothing like what they were. That's not the team I saw last week.
He changed everything last night because I think that he came in there with the mindset, especially against UNLV, that Donovan Smith was good enough to move the ball on his own. Which Donovan Smith, like I said, people, he's a good quarterback. I think people forget how
was he 20 for 25, something like that?
People forget how the kid has a big arm. He's just really inconsistent, and you saw that last night on a couple of throws that he missed as well. But I mean, like I said, I agree with you to a point, Chris. I just think that when it all boils down to it, like I said, there were opportunities last night to really to cover the spread, to beat this team by a lot. It just came out of piss poor execution, and that's the reason why I say I'm tending to give the benefit of the doubt to Littrell, because I don't necessarily have a problem with the play calling through 2 games. I have a problem with the execution.
The 2 series where he didn't really run the ball, and we went 3 passes and 3 and out.
Yeah.
That's a problem, right? You've got to, I mean, especially time management, to give Houston the time to put together that field goal drive where the defense have been tired. They've been on the field, getting ready to get in. They want to get into halftime. And they're also playing to try and not give up a big pass play, so they were just a little bit soft, right? And Houston put together a couple of plays. It was just, it was, you got to be a little better clock management wise on that, and a little more intelligence there. There's one thing that concerns me: is Peyton Bowen hurt?
I don't know.
I don't think he played in the second half.
I didn't see him at all.
And that may be just a thing of, it wasn't like he was playing bad, but I don't know. That I kind of wondered it as well.
It's not like he was doing worse. It's not like Bowman was, doing any. I mean, Bowman almost. I mean, that last punt he got, punt return to God. I mean, I'm like, geez. I mean, what was going? Was there like a reverse wind vortex thing going on punt returning last night? I mean, it's like, it was bizarre, but yeah, I mean, it's everybody took other than the safe, the bomb was bad. The TD they gave up was bad. So other than that, the defense was, so solid. But special teams, everybody other than Elzinga, everybody took a turn, cramping the bed. On offense, it was just like one person breaking down. Every just that typical 4 guys doing the right thing, one guy not doing the right thing. So yeah, it's and Arnold just had a baffling game. It's the worst game. I remember from a QB. I mean, we're talking like Trevor Knight kind of territory. Some of the stinkers TK rolled out in 2014. Rattler in 2021. But he got the Nebraska game, some of those early games against West Virginia where he didn't play very well.
I want to mention this comment right here from Bagman. He said, "I'd love for Beaton Bow to get the O-line ready eventually too. This O-line hokey pokey every year isn't going to cut it. Forgive Latrell for the play calling. It's the players that need to execute." So just to kind of unpack that, first off, people, we all know that Beaton Bow loves to come out there and try to figure out what is going to be the lineup around that game that we need to be really, really serious and engaged and locked and ready for. Coming into the season, I was the biggest one. I was the only one out of a lot of my podcast buddies who were screaming for the fact that, hey, Beaton Bow, we are now in the SEC. We can't afford that. Like I want to see us transition out of that mindset of, I'm okay. I'm not necessarily opposed to Beaton Bow rolling out with the 5 that gel the best together, not just the most talented 5, right? But at the end of the day, we have to know what that 5 is to begin the season to get that rhythm going so these guys can play together. Of course, there may be 1 or 2 shuffles that you have to make or whatever the case may be, but it shouldn't be the entire O-line where you're shifting those guys and making them, do all these things, especially when you have this much talent in that room, in my opinion, especially the younger guys. But it's SEC time, and SEC is not just when we start playing Tennessee. That's the entire year. That's an entire season. We need to be an elite team. We need to get the ball rolling from the get-go. Now, again, I understand we have those injuries, but it's just a transition in philosophy and mindset, in my opinion. Now, on the other half of this, Bagman said, he basically agreed with me about Latrell's play calling. It's just players got to execute, which they do. I mean, you pointed it out, Chris Mason. At the end of the day, that Bauer Sharp, when he's spinning, whatever the case may be, I'd rather Bauer Sharp lower the shoulder or whatever the case may be and land with the ball. I don't know how that came undone, whatever the case may be. That became that basically was a rule that incomplete pay, but that's something that's a drive killer. That's something that is 1 play, 2 plays like that give Jackson the confidence to go and make the next throws, right? He threw a beautiful ball to Brendan Thompson on that crosser, and then boom, pick the next play. You get what I'm saying? It's inconsistencies that we see with this offense. As far as I think Stephen G pointed out last week when we were talking about the run game with Temple. Stephen G and a couple of guys in the comments or in the live chat, they were saying, hey, one thing to notice about our run game is really 1 play with a couple of variations. So there wasn't really anything outside of that. Later on in that Temple game, you saw them do a bunch of outside run, which you kind of wondering, hey, Latrell, like, why are we not doing the outside run? And another thing, I think that if you're, I don't know what's going on with Sawchuk right now, unless they're just saving him or whatnot. But if you're not going to give him snaps or whatever, I feel like that rotation needs to be tightened up to where your three main guys are going to be Tatum, Sawchuk, and Barnes. Okay. Right now, Barnes is playing his ass off. It's not great, but it'll do for right now, I guess, if you want to say that. But at the end of the day, to me, I think you got to get Tatum some serious snaps to get him ready. Some of these younger guys, they have to get snaps and get ready. And this may be a blessing in disguise. Now, if I'm right, if I'm wrong, people please point it out to me that I was wrong about being optimistic about this team going forward, because I still am. I think that I'm not going to necessarily say the sky is the limit anymore, but I still think there's a lot of football to be played. And I think that we have a good chance to go out there and be really, really competitive in games and win those games. People are already calling for heads. Go ahead.
If we can get healthy, right?
Yeah, if we can get healthy.
If we're not able to, I mean, Brendan Thompson's the third wide receiver right now. He's a number 3, right? Burks is 1, and we have no two wide receivers, right? We don't have a second wide receiver really making plays on a consistent basis, right? If you can get Anderson or Anthony to fill that gap, that's a huge win. If Jake Taylor can lock down right tackle and be healthy, and then you've got Howland at left, work through his youth issues because he's the most talented athlete at left tackle. That's who we need at left tackle. And then Sexton at guard. I don't love that, but okay. And then Weiwu, who's been a disappointment to date. And then you've got Hickman or Everett at center, which was the whole plan, going back to spring. O-line looked good in spring. That's what my sources told me. Then Everett got hurt, and things kind of fell apart. The O-line looked okay in the spring game for the most part. Taylor looked okay at right tackle. It looked all right. It didn't look, then you got some injuries, and you move Sexton over and Tarquin and some other, we got to get Tarquin out of the starting lineup. He's not he's not a starter. And if you can get Taylor back, and then you can get that, and you get those 5 guys starting every game, playing most of the series, getting some continuity and gelling, that's going to be your 5 moving forward, and they're healthy, then that'll pay off. But if you continue playing, he calls it the hokey pokey, and it's more, sure. But it is on Bill. He does tinker, but Bill, we haven't had one game where Bill started the 5 he wants to start. I mean, he's not starting Josh Bates at center because he wants the offense to look bad. I mean, he's starting him because he's got no choice. He tried to go with Garen Hatchett, and that was a disaster at center. He was getting their quarterback killed. So I mean, yes, if they can get that going with the defense we've seen and knowing the talent, I think we have at running back and tight end to complement. I'm optimistic about where we go. But if we are Josh Bates and we can't get Andrew Anthony or Anderson going, Anderson is still he's like a Ferrari, right? He's in the shop. He looks great when you're driving him, but he's in the shop, way too much. If we're, other than Zion Kearney or Ivan Carrion blowing up for us as freshmen, which is always possible, but we need playmakers to make things easier for Jackson, and we need a stable offensive line with our most talented 5, and I think that's probably it. If we don't get those, then no,
it'll be a long season. Yeah,
it's going to be a long season because even freaking South Carolina with that guy Dylan, is it Dylan Stewart? Is that his name? I mean, he's going to. I mean, even South Carolina, who I think offensively is very limited with their quarterback and their scheme, but we'll be in some rock fights with teams that don't have good offenses,
Mhm.
and we'll be struggling to stay up with teams that do have good offenses, especially since 3 of those matchups are on the road.
Well,
And
well,
and Auburn, and Auburn will, Auburn will go from losing to Cal to being, they
like I said,
they vacillate. So
like I said earlier, let's not get ahead of ourselves, people. We still
Right.
wow,
we got to take this. We got to take this season 3 games at a time. That's what I said. You got to look at your schedule 3 games at a time because it's going to shift. But we mentioned 2 things last night, and Legend, I'll let you go after I say this. But Chris Mason, we mentioned one thing last night. Excuse me. We mentioned one thing last night that we would love to see, and we think it would help the offense passing wise and running wise, was if you were in heavy personnel. If you came out there with that a little bit more, especially if you're still trying to keep it vanilla or whatever the hell you're doing. I think if you're in heavy personnel packages or whatnot, especially using those tight ends, which we see both of them can catch and make plays, I think that'll help the offense. And then the second thing that I'll say, just to add on to that, and I think I can speak for you too, Chris, is simply this: is that I think you got to get Arnold in a rhythm of basically scanning the fields and finding those guys on those sticks and curls, different things like that, to basically force him to know, like, hey, we need to make it a point to check down, to find our check down guys. We need make it a point to scan the field and not necessarily try to go for the deep bomb every 5 minutes, right? That can't be a part of our plays, our mindset on third down. We got to pick up the first down. That's the goal ultimately.
Can't be in 3rd and long all day.
Yeah.
Also higher completion rate, right? Higher completion rate. But yeah, I think I think that Roberts kind of shocked me with his athletic ability. I mean, I'll be honest, he did a great job catching those 2 passes. He got good yardage after that one play. I think Arnold does see the middle of the field. We're no longer in the Dylan Gabriel where the middle of the field is you can't see it, so he keeps missing guys. Arnold does see guys in the middle, so work the whole field. I mean, yeah, there's a path out of this, but getting our best unit on the field will help greatly, and that. But I'd be happy to hear what I've been talking way too much. So
yeah,
Legend. What do you think? What's another opinion of this on this?
Well, as far as Jackson goes, and I know the chat will probably think I'm crazy, but it seems like the confidence ain't there yet. But it can get there, and I think one thing I feel that would get him some confidence, and this might sound strange, but dink him and dunk him for 10, 15 yards, just throwing these little dink and dunks, hitting his passes, and then he's going to get in a rhythm and say, hey, we're going now I'm flowing. Now the ebb of the game is going my way. It's little things like that will boost his confidence. And I 100% agree with you. Chris, is that your name, sir?
Yes, sorry, I'm Chris, yeah.
Okay. I completely agree with you on the offensive line. Now, one thing I was going to ask is Daniel Akinkunmini not ready to roll yet, or
no, he got his he hurt his foot right before the spring game, so he's been out for 6 months. He's now out of the boot. I believe he dressed last night, but yeah, he's not ready to go. Brooks is a little behind on strength and conditioning. Iasosa, I think, is doing much better than they thought, but obviously he was a longer term kind of dev project, and they dressed out Autry Dent for the first time last night, but he didn't get in the game. They like where he's going. It's just, so Savion Byrd and Colin Montgomery were the 2 guys that were supposed to be the senior leaders of this offensive line. I think we can clearly say, Chris and Sooner Legend, that even if they were still on the roster, they're not helping us. I mean,
no, they're not helping us at all.
Byrd can't get off the SMU bench. So, the other problem though is we only signed 2 offensive linemen in the class after that, and it looks like Sexton and Taylor are quality players, but we don't have any other. We got no other third-year offensive lineman in our system.
Right.
And all the transfers getting all these injuries means they're not getting up to speed quickly, and they're not developing as fast. So, that's where we are. Now all of a sudden you lose Caden Green. Obviously Caden Green would be a plug-and-play piece at either left guard or right tackle, and he would help everything greatly. And he's the only offensive lineman last year, the young offensive lineman, that got any dev time. Bates redshirted, Howland redshirted, and Ozetta did. And both Howland and Ozetta enrolled late. They didn't come in for spring. We've got more offensive linemen in this year, which was great. But the one guy we really needed to enroll early, Eddie Pierre-Louis, couldn't enroll early because his Catholic high school, just like Howland's Academy, just like Bishop Gorman, they don't have a path for them to graduate early. So we're stuck with all the pieces not quite being there. I mean, if Garen Hatchett hadn't torn his bicep, he's starting at left guard or he's starting at center, and everything else is more or less falling together. Because he's experienced, he's a big guy, he's athletic. The fact he was even able to do what he did do one-armed in the Temple game was pretty amazing. Like, okay, he shouldn't even be playing. He shouldn't be out there at all. And the fact he was even able to do anything was sort of amazing, since I think he was snapping with his arm that was messed up. So it just doesn't make any. It doesn't. The O-line is just. It wasn't deep to begin with, and then losing Everett in spring, losing Hickman in August, losing Taylor in August. And then even Bates is banged up, so he hasn't been practicing as much. He needs every practice rep he can get. Even he's not been practicing because he's been banged up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can tell me that we get Taylor, Nwewu, Everett or Hickman, Sexton, and Howland, and we can get that starting lineup starting game after game after game, then I think that O-line will eventually, it's athletic, it's big, it's got the right people, it's talented, will eventually get going. And then you add in the wide receiver upgrades, all of a sudden things look a whole lot better, from that perspective.
You don't have, as House Divided, shout out to House Divided on Twitter. He said, I like what he said. He said, you got three slot guys playing outside, right? So that's another thing that is hurting as well. But Wayne G says, need Anderson and Anthony to get healthy, which is obvious, yes. And then run game will get better. I like the optimism. Bagman says Jacob Sexton is a dog, but has to play tackle. Been begging for him to kick out to tackle as well.
Tell me who's your left guard if you move Sexton to right tackle, which is what I would do. I mean, so I'm the recruiting guy, so I'm always viewing the future. It's a Sooner Legend. That's my podcast. I'm the Sooner. I got this recruiting podcast. That's my viewpoint. That's my viewpoint. So if right now you ask me, what do I do? I'm like, I play for tomorrow, so I stupidly play for tomorrow. So I'm Howland, Eddie Pierre-Louis, give me Hickman or Everett, Nwewu, and Sexton, and that's what I roll with for the rest of the season. I use Taylor as my swing guy, third tackle, and I use Ozetta as my swing guy at guard, and that's what I'm moving forward with because Hatchett's hurt. He needs to get a medical red shirt. We'll get him back next year. Hopefully he can play for 2 years. Nwewu comes back. We can get Everett or Hatchett at center next year after Hickman leaves. And then you've got your two bookend tackles, which means we're not in the portal buying tackles again because sometimes you get a Guyton, sometimes you get a Rouse. But this year we got Spencer, Brown, and Tarquin, and it didn't work. I mean, I think Bill almost knew those guys were backups, but he's gotten caught because Taylor has been out, and you don't have a young tackle behind him. But now they've had forced to go with Howland. Go with Sexton. He's more athletic than Taylor. That's the tackle pair you need for the future. But it's that and Eddie Pierre-Louis obviously is the inside guard of the future. Yeah. So go with the young guys. Go with the players who are going to be the scheme. And see where it takes you. But that's that's a play for tomorrow attitude, which you can't do. You just can't. I don't know that Eddie Pierre-Louis is ready to play 50, 60 snaps yet.
And that's the whole thing. But hell, even with
I agree with that.
Year,
and
okay,
back to Jackson Arnold. Oh, okay. I'm still on. Back to the Jackson Arnold thing, and then I'll back out for a little bit. You know, we are so spoiled to quarterbacks at OU.
Yeah,
Baker, right? Kyler. You know, and
well, Sam,
people's
Jason.
got to pump the brakes a little bit about Jackson because with all of them, Sam, Jason, Josh, we can go down the line, but people need to pump the brakes on Jackson a little bit because he's still showing his inexperience, only in a second game. And Jackson is the type of quarterback in my eyes that once he gets that experience under his belt and he knows what he's doing, then you will see the ad libs and all that come out when he don't have his normal cast of characters on the line with him. So I'm not on the Jackson Arnold hate train yet. I'm giving that young man a pass. It's just inexperience. What and y'all guys can take it for what it's worth.
Well, even if you want to move on from JA, it's not like Caleb Williams is sitting behind him.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I love Michael Hawkins' potential. I thought he was completely underrated coming out of high school. He did a great job his senior year developing his game and improving. He looks fast. Now, would I sit Jackson for a minute and put in some speed option stuff with Mike Hawkins if things continue to get a little weird? Maybe. Give a slightly different look and give a chance for Jackson to sit from the sideline and get better information. Maybe would I throw that as a curveball? Maybe, but that's about it. That's about it. It's a wrinkle, to give some teams something to think about. But that's about it. Other than that, you're right. We need JA to get more reps. We need him to play behind. I mean, again, the same guy who threw for 350 yards against Arizona, granted with a couple of picks. He's the same. That's the quarterback we have against an offensive line that was not great in the ball game, but he had wide receivers, didn't he? I mean, he had Farouk, obviously, who made some fumbles, but he had Nick Anderson. He had a wide receiver core, a veteran wide receiver core through 11 games, and he looked a lot better. That's the thing that's throwing me off in terms of Jackson is it's the wide receiver group. The fact that we're down Gibson, Anthony, Farouk, and Anderson. We're down 4 guys.
But
so
you guys are talking about it right there. What is basically encompassing what Wang G is saying right here. O-line graded well in pass pro. And I figured that they did. When you watch the game back, you're saying, hey, it's there. Like it's good enough. Maybe it's not good enough down the road for what everybody else is trying to jump to 4 or 5 games down the road, 2 games down the road, whatever the case may be. It was good enough last night to get you a solid win to make everybody feel somewhat complacent or just better about the overall product. So, guys, I'm gonna end that subject there. Look, Houston is in the past. What we got to focus on is this right here. We're 2-0. Okay,
we're 2-0.
Have been a struggle. We're 2-0. Sloppy play. I want to say, and hopefully the panel will back me up on this. I want to say that about 70% of what you saw last night is correctable. And
it is.
I'm talking about some of the Jackson Arnold things, some of the passes down the field. Like some of that stuff to me is correctable with good film.
Well, and he chose the wrong play, right?
Yes.
Like, okay. That sideline route to Reagan's is a low percentage play. I mean, they even highlighted it on the film. Burks is wide open. 5-yard play, plus who knows what Burks gets, rack yards afterwards. Someone stumbles and takes a bad angle. Burks takes that all the way. So you are completely right. It is fixable, but we need to have a more stable offensive line, and we need to give Jackson a more veteran wide receiver core. Nick Anderson's gonna be like, hey, dude, I'm freaking, I don't want to get us into the expletive world on this podcast. Needs to go up to his Nick Anderson would go up to his young quarterback and say, I'm wide freaking open. Throw me the goddamn football. Do some Keyshawn Johnson thing. Burks isn't there yet. He's too new. But Anderson, throw me the damn football.
That's the 30% that I'm saying is just health-wise doing that.
Yeah.
Defensively, you're playing really good football. You had a bust last night, which was kind of uncharacteristic. But like I said, these things they're fixable. You can correct a lot of these mistakes that you made in this game. And at the end of the day, my uncle called me. Like I said, we'll move on. This is a great segue to the Tulane game that we're going to preview now. But my uncle called me. He said, I'm happy with what Tulane is doing because maybe this will wake some people up around OU to know, like, hey, we can't come in here and be totally, look like this. Basically, we can't come in here because it's not necessarily about being vanilla and this and that. You got to start getting your scripts and all that stuff ready because SEC play is going to be rocking and rolling. Which, as people are doom and gloom on OU right now, and I get it, people, I understand. Like I keep saying, they did not meet the expectation last night, and that's the most disappointing part of that game. But the fact of the matter is that our next two games are at home. So we got the home field advantage. We know the crowd is going to be rocking. Crowd is going to be in it. Defense is going to be juiced up. And some of these teams are going to try to play you straight up and all the rest of that. You just have some serious woes that you have to overcome. Exactly. But I think those things are fixable, but we're a work in progress right now. So to go to the Tulane game, Tulane is a spread team. I want to say they like to spread the ball out. They are a spread team now, like a true spread. Yeah. They have a good they have a good running back core, durable running backs. They have a pretty damn good quarterback. He can make some plays happen. I'm not
but his ball security is bad.
Yeah, his ball security is bad. I'm not going to call him he's kind of a dual threat, I guess you could say. I'm not going to say he just takes off and run and does stuff like that, but he's a guy that can move the pocket, move that. But I think defensively we match up really well with them, to be honest with you. Now that we have Woody back, I think we got to figure out what is up with Gentry or whatever the case may be. But even with that, Kanai, Des Malone, guys like that are playing really well. Do either of you know what's up with Vickers? Is Vickers close?
I don't know. I haven't heard. Have you heard, Chris?
No, I haven't.
There was a vague update from OU Insiders Pod where it sounded like he's out for a while. Ooh. But it was strangely described. Like it was a strange description. Like maybe it was a strange. I'll leave it at that. It wasn't very. It was strange in terms of the phrasing used. But I think he might be looking at a redshirt year, which would be fine, right? He did redshirt last year. It's okay if we get a redshirt year and we get him back. Next year we've got good because we'll lose a couple of guys, Woody and Malone. So if Vickers comes back next year with an extra year, that's fine. It's like I kind of wish they'd redshirt Kanik this year if they could, just to even some things out with that. But he should be back. But yeah, I think Chris, you're right. There's so many positives on defense, and if you can just fine tune the offense a little bit, get things a little bit better. I got somebody sending me messages that the Gabe Eichert Teddy podcast is now out there, and basically, he's saying that Arnold was just, Arnold wasn't trusting his line. He wasn't waiting for guys to get open, not making any, was throwing bad balls and was playing tight. That basically, and it's weird that he said the pass pro, and Gabe, who hates the OU offensive line on a regular basis on that podcast, doesn't like anybody's offensive line play. He said the pass pro wasn't horrible, which is almost like a huge compliment from him.
Yeah, the pass pro was not bad. I think offensively this game, seeing the way that they want to play, because they like to play close. They like to play close to the ball. They like to have those linebackers kind of hawking that line. And at sometimes when you watch the game, Chris, I'm trying to pick up more of this scheme play and everything and stuff, and be more about the the schematics of things, right? It looked like they at times they were very multiple on defense. Like you would see kind of a mix, like a 4-2-5 almost is kind of their. I would say 4-2-5.
Yeah,
you would see like a 4-3. You would see, you didn't see as much 3-4 or anything like that, but you saw them being very multiple on defense against K-State at times.
And they were blitzing a lot.
Yeah,
I mean they were gambling heavily. Like we're not going to let K-State grind us down. And once Avery Johnson started hitting some big passing plays, things sort of opened up for them. But they were blitzing a lot. They were obviously focused on trying to make sure the K-State running attack didn't grind them down because they were, Giddens had a good day, but he had some big runs setting that up. But they were, K-State was down big early. I mean, they really came. I mean, it was 24-17 and it was 34. Sorry, it was 24. There's a 14-point swing because of a fumble return for a touchdown.
Yeah,
that was huge in that game. So yeah, Tulane, they kind of ran out of gas in the second half defensively. So if OU can keep the pressure on, I think in the second half, OU could, if their defense is doing a good job with Mensa and limiting Tulane's opportunities. I don't think they've got a lot of depth in terms of they ran out of gas in that game a little bit. I mean, K-State just sort of started scoring whenever they wanted to.
Yeah.
So to get back in that game in the second half. So yeah, I think Tulane, it's offensively where they worry me more because I think defense, if we can put out a good offensive scheme, we can put up 30 points.
Yeah.
What worries me a little bit is Mensa. He can throw the ball, he can throw the rock, and we haven't really seen a quarterback because Houston, they dialed back their passing game a little bit, to give them a lot of checkdowns for Donovan and that. So it's Mensa's playmaking ability that worries me a little bit, just because the defense gave up that one big play, and if Mensa's
that was a bust. That was on RSJ.
It was.
What he saw in the background, I still have no idea. And they even showed basically they had all 22 all 22 film for you right there available. They were showing you like the play while he was doing that. As BV said, he played quarters actually, playing the cover too. So I'm still not necessarily sure how that bust happened, but I think that's correct.
Can I tell you, Chris?
Huh?
Can I tell you?
Go ahead.
About the bust?
Go ahead.
And I owe this to our good friend Jay from Unfair Sports. A play before that's when we got that PI that shouldn't have been. And then Jay said that Bowman was trying to get the play to RSJ, and because of the crowd noise booing over the PI call, RSJ didn't hear him. But Jay said if there would have been a receiver at the top, that play would have never happened. That's according to Jay.
So
I might be paraphrasing in there, but
so RSG didn't get the call from Bowman,
right?
So he didn't know that the cornerback was going to release the guy to him.
Right.
Okay.
So that's per Jay from Unfair Sports.
We haven't seen a bust like that all season, right? I mean, it's not like we haven't seen guys running free like that for the most part. So that makes sense.
And even with that, like the PI call was really bad as well. I was like, you got to let them play physical. It wasn't even really that
big
physical of a play.
Huh? Big 12 refs.
Big 12 refs.
What do you I mean,
I just think I feel like defensively, I feel like you're going to be fine. They're going to give you opportunities to be opportunistic as far as in the turnover game, right?
Yeah.
I think that this is a game where you can get some turnovers as well. I think this is a game where you see that D line really, really establish itself. I'd like to see more from our I guess our DNs, our DN room. We got to figure something out. Guys have to be able to get more of a pass rush.
RMT played pretty well. They were They were
They started doubling when they started doing that kind of
Yeah.
shift. When they started shifting as far as doing like the slides or whatnot, getting their pass protection and everything the way they wanted it, especially in the second half. You saw it now. I mean, hell, they were and people know. Look, I'm not really the world's biggest Ethan Downs fan, but hell, they were doubling Ethan Downs. I saw Ethan Downs, at times he was battling double teams himself. They're carrying him out there. Run game last night, I had a friend tell me, why I didn't think the D line really, I was like, no, the D line did really well. I was like, they won the game for us. I thought that, there were times where the defense could play better or do this or whatever. Obviously that busted coverage, this and that, but for the most part, it wasn't a defense game. It was just offensively, right? But offensively, I think that you're going to be able to you should be able to go out there, like Chris said, and put up 30 plus points. This is a game where Jackson just has to trust his own line. One of the biggest things that I always look for in quarterbacks, right, is pocket presence.
Yeah.
Seeing Kyler just being able to make things happen on a whim, being decisive, knowing that, okay, well, hell, they're giving it to me. I got 5 yards in front of me. I'm just going to take it, right, and go make a play. Seeing Baker being a willing runner, but also we know the maturation that he had from Baker Magic days to whenever he would actually stay in the pocket and kill you with his arm, right? So we saw that. And then we were all spoiled, not just with that 2019 LSU team as a whole, and not just Joe Burrow as this college legend, right? But if you really go and break down the film on him, watch his pocket presence, man. A lot of times, especially when he played against the Georgia defenses and the Bama defenses, man, he kept the play alive, and he wasn't running out of the pocket. He wasn't doing anything. With those NFL guys coming at him, he just stepped up in the pocket and kept everything going. Even when the pocket was collapsing, he was still there making plays. There were times where he did have to get outside of the pocket, but it wasn't a lot. But that's the thing. You're looking at Jackson, you're saying, hey, if one of those sacks that he took last night, you're like, hey, Jackson, offensive line is holding the guy. You just stepped up into him.
Yeah, you reacted and walked into it. I mean,
I was like, you should have decided right then and there, just take off. Like there's an alleyway open. Those guys are not going to be able to catch you. Just go. But he's very indecisive right now. So I see Tulane still giving him the same thing and trying to collapse the pocket, because that, to me, 2 games in, that has been kind of the success for defenses against his offenses. If they can kind of collapse that pocket, that's whenever he feels the most uncomfortable, because he's not decisive yet with what he's doing. And it's not necessarily a coverage sack because people are covered down the field. It's because he's waiting a little bit too long on what he wants to do to make that decision. So I think that's something that has to get cleaned up against this defense here, who does want to blitz, who likes to play around the ball, play around that line of scrimmage. They're not just sitting back and saying, okay, we're just going to, have gap integrity and play it that way. No, they're going to want to get after Jackson. So the thing is, that's got to be better. One thing I will say in this game right here, and we talked about it last night, Chris, we cannot, and this is the only thing that I will take away from Littrell right now. I do not want to see any more quarterback blasts, quarterback powers, quarterback leads, whatever you want to call it. We need to get the ball to our playmakers. Coming into the season, I was really excited about plays like the split zone buff, different things like that I've seen from past offenses that Littrell has. But right now, that's just not the play, because Jackson is so indecisive and he's not reading the D line correctly on that those plays are getting busted, and we're 2nd and 10, 3rd and 8, different things like that, trying to figure out, what we're going to do on that 3rd down play. Like it's putting us behind the chains. We need to keep moving the ball. So, I mean, that's just one thing that I feel like we got to stop doing that.
Yeah, we got to get better on 3rd downs. That's my biggest issue now.
We're gonna make 3rd down more manageable, more open. more, not the, third and long, 3rd and 9 with an inexperienced, with a younger quarterback gives all the advantage back to the defense.
And then we got to get in better position on 1st and 2nd down. On 2nd down to get it to 3rd and short. And
we're off schedule, like left and right. We're just completely off schedule. And, because 3rd and long, when you've only got Deion Burks at wide receiver that's threatening anyone, and maybe, it's tough. I mean, he did some check downs to the tight end across the middle that helped. But yeah, I mean, Tulane just worries me, Chris, just because if you hold Tulane to right now, what we've seen from this season so far, especially the K-State game, you hold Tulane to 17 points, you've probably done a good job defensively. That's what I would say right now, based upon what we've seen. They can pass the ball. They have a quarterback who can make plays, some chunk plays. He can make chunk plays, which the other two guys really, weren't able to do. And then that puts us in a position to realistically need to, as you said, hit that 30-point mark organically from the offense. And we need to start fast. Can't start slow again. That's the other thing that concerns me is just the just not looking sharp right off the bat offensively.
Yeah, well, I agree, Chris.
Do you guys have us winning this game?
Oh yeah. I got OU winning every game this year. That's how big of a fan I am.
I'm a die on that hill.
I have OU. If you tell me Nick Anderson and Jake Taylor are truly healthy to play 60 minutes of football and can contribute, then I have OU winning something like 31-17. If they can't play and there aren't other people don't step up and make better plays, then I'm worried we're in a rock fight and it's something like 20-17.
Or about like this game last night.
It's another rock fight. Fourth quarter
another rock fight.
But we seem to have a defense that can stop and win those fourth quarters now. We got the depth, provided we're not, there's not like a 4-1 advantage in time of possession. We've got defense that can get a stop and can make a play like Robert Spears Jennings to put a game away if the offense can then execute. So
exactly,
but that's where we are. So and you tell me special teams is about neutral.
Yeah,
I'm a little worried about after the punt return. Keystone Cops punt returning of the other night. I'm a little.
That's what that was.
I'm a little worried about. Doinking off the front of your helmet. Seriously.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried about that. So yeah, but we need to see a better effort from coaching and execution. If we go out and roll out a much better game, even if with a better opponent, that's fine. We're getting more of our skill, more of our stability, more stability in the starters on offense. Then that's what we need to see.
Yeah, I'm going to have to see who's going to be starting, but like you said, if we can get the guys you talked about, and that seems like to be that's like Jackson Arnold's comfort zone, so to speak, with Nick Anderson. And I'm going to ride high on optimism here. That's just me. I'm a typical OU Sooner fan. Like I said, I got us winning every game this year, and I'm going to die on that hill. But I'm going to say that Saturday we will probably have some, not all, but some of our woes turned around, and we're going to. We've got to. I'm going to say we're going to see better play than what we seen Saturday night. That was rock bottom.
I think the play calling is I'm just going to go out on a limb. I think the play calling is on another level this week. I think as far as what we want to show, I think you're going to see stuff that makes sense for us. As far as this right here, I agree with you, Jason. I don't think that OU is going to give up 14 or 17 points. I think that what ultimately happens, I think that if things are going right, I think this is a I think this is a 31-10 type of game, 31-7 type of game, or possibly if things are not going right, this is like a I hate to even say this, like a 20-24 to like 7 or 10 type game right there. I think that we do go out there and cover that 14-point spread, 14.5-point spread that we are favored by. So I just feel like we match up well. It's kind of weird saying that, but I think we match up well with them defensively and offensively. It's just, are we going to see more of the same, or are we going to see things get better? Which I tend to feel like things are going to get better, because I think Latrell was adamant. I think he was serious about getting in there and figuring things out. But I think he's going to try to give Jackson as many looks as he possibly can, as far as, hey, we just need to move the ball, we need to move the pot, we need to move this, and kind of like what Boomer 580 Sooner said, I'd like to see Latrell move the pocket, quick passes, get a rhythm. I that's what I'm hoping that you see to get, because to me, I think that's the key to unlocking Jackson, is that, you would see more of a rhythm or whatnot with him if you can get some quick passes, different things like that. Not necessarily throwing bubble screens and all the rest of that stuff, but just the fact that, hey, if you can get him some quick passes out there and get them all in a rhythm, that's going to really help. Same with the run game as well. I think that the offensive line is still not up to par, but like I said, it was better than what a lot of people expected last night. Now, granted, still not the expectation, but it was better than what we expected. So I feel like there are certain parts of this team that are moving in the right direction, but there are some that are just like, hey, we got to kind of grab them by the hand and pull them along until they're really ready to kind of step out and show out.
Right.
One last thing I'll say about Tulane, again, to repeat a little bit, is their quarterback will give the ball up. Our ball hawking secondary could have a big day. He's also not got good ball protection in terms of fumbles. He's not a big guy. If he gets hit by Robert Spears Jennings on like a scramble, he's coughing that ball up. So that could throw the game as well, right? If OU gets a couple of early turnovers, he throws some picks, and all of a sudden, offense is in good field position, and you're able to get some momentum down. We just couldn't get any downhill momentum last Saturday night, right?
That's right.
Houston was determined, we're not giving OU the ball, right? We're not going to give him the ball. We're not really going to test the secondary. We're going to keep it all vanilla. We're going to run the ball as much as possible. If it's third and long, we're just going to run the ball and punt. We're going to not let the OU defense push us, and we're not going to let Donovan Smith throw 4 interceptions. I think the Mensa kid could easily throw 4 interceptions to our secondary, fumble the ball a couple of times, and Tulane could be like, what's happened? Because they're just, I think offensively they're explosive, but I think they are. But what I saw against K-State, he's susceptible to making bad decisions, and our veteran secondary could have a big day.
Yeah. I'm all with you, Chris. Couldn't have said it better, brother.
We gotta. There's a lot of improvement that needs to be made. 2 games into the season, there's still 10 games left, people, and maybe more. Right. The thing is that we've been here a couple of times. We were here last year, same way, 2-0. We weren't necessarily impressed with this, but then we caught a wave, man. We hit a stride. We hit a stride until we met O State in Kansas last year, which is still crazy to say. But regardless, y'all, we started this way, right? And the other teams look really good, this and that. But we started slow, but we finished pretty strong, I want to say.
One last thing, Chris, did you see any of DG against Oregon's game?
I did stay up and watch a bunch of that. More the same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just laughing that the announcer's like, he just so many big plays downfield, we're just not hitting executing on them. Like, yeah, well, we know how that goes. So we
heard that song before.
Yeah, they were lucky. I mean, they've stumbled through 2 games as well with much more returning talent. So.
and my last point, and we'll end it here, is this right here. In a way, this truly could be a blessing in disguise because there's no other team. There is no other team like a pissed off OU team.
No,
People are not. When people are not pat, I don't want the team that's ranked number 4 in the nation or whatever the case may be. I want the team that has to climb and do a little bit of work because that's whenever they play their best. And if you look at the temperament of a Latrell, of a BV in those press conferences, held post game little interview that he did on the field for ESPN, I can tell you now. These practices this week are going to be a little bit hellacious, as much as you can, trying not to injure people.
Exactly. That's hey,
yeah, it's going to be to a point. The point is going to get across people. But like I said, the most disappointing thing about any OU loss, about any OU game like you saw last night, even though it was a win, is just the fact that they didn't necessarily reach or meet the expectation that we have, the standard, right? The standard is the best. So the thing is that people look, we got another game, another week to work things out before we enter conference play. So I think that guys just kind of take a chill pill and let's just wait and see. I think next week, if we go out there and handle business against Tulane and do what we need to do, I think that should stabilize some of the talk until we get to Tennessee and actually see how do we match up against these SEC teams, right? But again, I feel confident. I feel good. Winning is hard, and sometimes you look bad while you're winning, right? But a lot of teams have. So this 12-game playoff, right? The 12-game playoff, the new running clock rule, all the rest of this stuff, these different things have changed the game, people. Okay, possessions and all the rest of that stuff, positioning as far as rankings and all the rest of that stuff, a lot of stuff, the narratives have all changed. So you have a lot of leeway in your schedule as well to maybe drop a game or so, but you also have to remember that you realize this 12-game playoff thing has changed the shape, the landscape of college football, and you will see that throughout the year. But a lot of teams have to get better, and unfortunately, we're one of those teams right now. But I don't want to peak in September. I'd rather be peaking around November. Right?
Yeah, well, November.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly. So it's, again, we didn't write a $1.5 million check last night to lose.
That's right.
Go to a Notre Dame message board and see how they feel tonight. I mean, Northern Illinois and Houston. I mean, I'm not sure there's a great difference between those two teams when you get down down to it.
Yeah.
And Chris, I'm going to add on to you about the fans' expectations of OU. It's not only expectations, but we know the potential in these players that BV has, and when you're not seeing them hit their living up to their potential, that it's kind of frustrating.
No, I agree. Say Sony Cowboy says, yeah, if JA hits the check downs, probably offense, the offense probably gets going. Yeah. No, I agree. But people, look, we've been on here for about an hour or so. I'll probably be back sometime this week or whatnot to do even more like Tulane stuff and just try to get the spirits up. People, we're not down, we're not out, we're 2-0. That's the main thing. Keep the main thing the main thing. I know I'm giving that coach speak. I know I'm giving that BV speak. But seriously, we're 2-0. Can't be a Debbie Downer. Nobody wants to sit there and talk to a Debbie Downer. We got obvious issues, but we're not different than any other team out there. Even some of the teams that look elite right now, we just got to wait and see. Like I said, this 12-game playoff changes everything because everybody's not trying to – they're not trying as hard to press right now. But like I said, there's still really good football ahead of us. Last night, that was not that. We were far from that. But things that if you look at the underlying factors of it, we just got to correct a few things. I think we'll be okay. Mr. Mason, Legend, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find your content.
Start with Mr. Mason first.
Well, they've heard me lately. So it's follow me on Twitter, CM_Sooners360. You'll get posts about my content on Patreon, the podcasts I'm doing, both on YouTube and just the regular podcast feeds. So that's the easiest way to follow me. If you want an easy way on YouTube is also just put in Sooners 360. You'll find my channel right there.
And you can find me at Twitter X at Sooner Cowboy 1969, which I've got a link in the description that will take you to my YouTube channel, which is Sooner Legends Podcast. I give you some of the old, some of the new, some of the historical factors of the program. So I'm going to give myself a shout out, Chris. We're at 461 subscribers. I'm 39 away from 500. Guys, we getting close.
Let's get them up
y'all
there.
Hit me up.
Let's get them up there. Like, subscribe, follow. Go over there to the Patreon for Mr. Mason. Everybody on here is bumping out really good content. So, people, like I said, let's stay optimistic, let's stay cool, and let's stay blessed.
And give every.
You know, there's a lot of great OU podcasts, but there's only one where the horns are always down. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Horn